Everyone, my name is Eric Hopkins, aka JEL. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So, a lot of great professional wrestling this week. Obviously, I am a huge fan of pro wrestling in general, not just WWE, but every single company that's out there. It was a big weekend for everybody. And before I get into my WrestleMania 40 and Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania review, I wanted to do a quick shout out to Ring of Honor. I thought they did a outstanding pay-per-view as well. Like I said, I appreciate all companies here. And of course, they had a big time championship title change with Mark Briscoe winning the Ring of Honor World Championship over Eddie Kingston. Everything that's gone on with Mark Briscoe over the last year or so, with his brother passing away in real life in a tragic car accident. It's just nice to see the Briscoe name is finally starting to get the respect it deserves on the mainstream level. So I thought this was just a moment I wanted to mention real quick here, because I mean, like I said, as much as we've got back and forth between WWE and AEW right now, which I probably will talk about a little bit here on this show today. I think it's appropriate to just recognize these other companies who are putting in the hard work as well. And even though I don't have a graphic for it, I do want to also shout out NXT Stand and Deliver. They also had a really fun show this weekend on Saturday before WrestleMania Night 1. I thought it was a great show for that crew down there as well. I don't watch NXT as much as I should, but I gotta say though, that Stand and Deliver show was so good, I might actually start checking it out a little bit more. Not guaranteeing I'm going to be doing reviews for here on the channel, because there's just so much pro wrestling to cover. Yeah, I would definitely like to check them out a little bit more. But with all that being said, let's get into WrestleMania 40. I know WWE and Triple H, especially right now, are touting this as the greatest WrestleMania of all time when it comes to attendances, just product, the creative, the booking, whatever they might be touting it as. I'm not ready to go that far just yet to say it's the greatest of all time. Obviously, I've seen a lot of WrestleManias throughout my 30+ year fandom here since I was a little kid. But I understand why they do it. WWE always, every WrestleMania is the greatest of all time. The greatest. It's their way of marketing it and promoting it, as a company. And I totally understand it from a business perspective. But if we're going to be real here, I would put this WrestleMania in the top 20 of WrestleManias all time. It was overall a good show. I thought Night 1 struggled a bit, which we're going to get into why I have issues with the show as well. But I'm going to praise the good stuff as well. So I'm not going to be a total Debbie Downer here. But I just feel like there's a lot of WrestleManias. I mean, personally, I went to WrestleMania 8 in 1992. That one is going to always hold a high. I'm going to hold that one in a high esteem because, of course, I was there. And of course, you got WrestleMania 25, WrestleMania 17. There's all sorts of good WrestleManias throughout the year. So it's really hard to kind of, WrestleMania 3, it's hard to kind of, rank them at this point since there's 40 of them now. But I would definitely put it in the upper half, no doubt about it. But at the same time, Night 1 struggled, like I said. So let's get into that a little bit here. Night 2 saved the show, I think. So we'll get into all that stuff that I think about it here moving forward. But before we get too far into it, though, I definitely wanted to give someone their flowers. This young lady here, Samantha Irvin, the Raw announcer, was also the announcer for both nights of WrestleMania. She is absolutely outstanding. This is I think, I don't know if they're married, but Ricochet's girlfriend, at least Ricochet's fiance, whatever it might be, his significant other here. And I just want to say that she does an excellent job with her ring announcing. She always has passion into it. And if you follow her or WWE on their social media networks, she's always got a lot of great reaction videos to some of the stuff that happens in the ring too, because she's first and foremost a fan. I just want to give a shout out to her because she's doing an excellent job. Yeah, absolutely deserved. I hope they keep using her for many years to come. I believe Triple H might even call her WWE's Michael Buffer, because he was the famous ring announcer in like UFC and some boxing and things like that over the years. Yeah, I just think she's incredible. I don't know where they found this young lady, but they struck gold with her. So excellent stuff to see her there. All right, well, let's move on to the beginning of the show here. Obviously, in Philadelphia, it was an open roof stadium at the Lincoln Financial Field, the home of the Philadelphia Eagles. So obviously this time of year, it's a little chilly, and WWE on Night 1 especially had a little bit of issue with the weather. It was a cold night, 52 degrees, and of course it dropped as the evening went on. It got darker, and of course that means it's going to get a little bit colder. According to many people who were there, they said it was very cold. But at the same time, I'm sure it was okay for the wrestlers because they got to deal with the hot lights and things like that. So I'm sure it probably felt good to them to a degree. But the thing with this, which is one of my first nitpicks of the first night especially, we got it. The first time they told us, it was like, hey, it's chilly here in Philly. Clever. But, at the same time, it's like, we okay, we know it's cold. You told us once, but they tried to repeat this graphic over and over and over and over and over again throughout the night. It's like the weather's not really changing that much. The temperature may be dropping a little bit here, but other than that, it was just kind of like it was like Michael Cole was a meteorologist out there on commentary. It was just like, why do we need to have this reminded to us over and over and over again? We get it. It's chilly in Philly. You said it once already. So, but yeah, I just got a little bit sick of it. It's just something that WWE does. A lot of times, like, the one thing that like AEW and some other companies will do, they'll tell you things one time and expect you to get it and be smart enough to remember it. WWE a lot of times, and I understand there's a lot of fans out there who probably need things repeated for them and fed to them with a spoon. But at the same time, a lot of fans like me are just like, all right, you told us once, you don't have to tell us ad nauseum over and over and over again. So that kind of bugged me a little bit. But I mean, minor nitpick, not a real big deal, but I'm probably making a bigger deal out than what it really is. But show opened up with Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship over on Monday Night Raw. Obviously, the ladies look great in their WrestleMania get-ups here. Yeah, this match was actually really good to start the show, I thought, especially when you consider, I think they said that Rhea Ripley might have had a panic attack before the show started, as well as Becky Lynch was dealing with a 102-degree fever because she had strep throat earlier in the week. So all things considered, I mean, this match probably should not have been nearly as good as it was. So I thought it came off pretty well. And of course, the match ended with Rhea Ripley getting the win over Becky Lynch here. Becky Lynch was definitely focusing on the arm a lot during the match. But at the very end here, Rhea Ripley retains her Women's World Championship here on Monday Night Raw. Good opener for WrestleMania, I thought. I mean, it wasn't, the problem I had with night one, top to bottom, except for a few matches, there were some matches that felt like it was not WrestleMania worthy. I mean, it was like really good Monday Night Raw level. I'm not saying the show was bad whatsoever, because it wasn't. But at the same time, it could have been just that much better to take it up to that WrestleMania level. Some of the matches didn't quite get there, I thought. This one was pretty close. It might not have quite got there, but it was really well done, and it wasn't bad. So I thought it was a solid opening for WrestleMania Night 1 here on Saturday. Now, following the Women's World Championship match, the thing that I really didn't care for throughout the show, and this is going to be a theme top to bottom on night one here. And night two did the same thing. WWE pay-per-views as of late. Now, normally that's when they put on their best matches, and that's normally when they put on their best pro wrestling, because the stories are culminating and all that sort of good stuff. But the problem that I'm seeing now that's starting to become a major issue, this happened at the Royal Rumble, this happened a little bit toward the end last year, but WrestleMania especially, was the overuse of ads. This was especially in between matches. Like, it felt like it was about 30 minutes, maybe a little less, in between wrestling matches here on WrestleMania. We had an end of a match, then we had to go toward some sort of, and I guess some of this is probably the Peacock network and all that sort of stuff, but it was just too much of promotion, too much product placement, too much all this throughout the show. And I'll get into a little bit of that as we get to those matches. But at the same time, I just feel like they're just doing way too much with it. It really distracts from the actual pro wrestling show. And that does not make your show much easier to watch. Because, be honest, the first night, especially of WrestleMania, had I not been watching with a group of friends, I probably would have turned it off after about the third match, because I was getting to a point was like, I can't sit here and watch all these commercials. It's too much. I mean, it was just far beyond what any pro wrestling show needs. I have no problem if you want to put product placement like on the ring mat, like they do with the Prime logo, things like that. But when you're getting to a point where it's lit up all the way around every corner and nook and cranny around the ringside area, plus you're putting up graphics, you're constantly showing it on commentary, you're doing, big, like I said, in between matches, you're just doing nothing but promo work. It's like, did we pay to watch this show, or did we pay to watch nothing but commercials run for 5 hours every night? So that got to me a lot on this show. WrestleMania and their pay-per-views and WWE in general need to really, I mean, I don't care. Like I said, I don't care if you want to promote some stuff. Obviously, you get paid by the sponsorships and things like that. I understand, but dial it back a little bit, please, because this show was way too much in my opinion. After the Women's World Championship match and all the ads apparently that was in between matches, we had a ladder match for the Raw Tag Team Championships and the SmackDown Tag Team Championships here. Yeah, we had all sorts of tag teams in this match here, from Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, DIY, R-Truth and The Miz, Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate, Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, and the New Day with Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. They were challenging Finn Balor and Damian Priest for the for the Judgment Day's Tag Team Championship here and a six-pack ladder match. Definitely chaotic in most cases here, no doubt about it. When you got 12 men fighting over 2 sets of belts, you're going to have something that can be a bit hard to follow, but a lot of fun at the same time. I definitely love the fact that when DIY come down to the ring, they were wearing DX getup, including Gargano wearing like a Shawn Michaels inspired cowboy hat. Because obviously the storytelling is that R-Truth thinks that DIY has been DX for so long now. He's been calling Gargano Shawn Michaels, and he's been calling Ciampa Triple H. So I thought that was very clever, and they even come out with the DX kind of style entrance graphics and things like that, wearing the green and all that sort of good stuff. So I love that, and it went well with the Philadelphia theme being in the Eagles Stadium as well. So absolutely a lot of fun for sure. Truth had some great comedy spots here. I loved when he got up on the apron and was asking for the hot tag. And then, of course, The Miz, gave him the hot tag, and then he thought he got a pinfall victory. But, of course, there's no pinfalls in a ladder match, so that was a fun spot as well. They're having a lot of fun with R-Truth and his comedy gimmick, and you can tell that R-Truth is definitely having the time of his life. Definitely a bit of a shock, which a lot of people, I think even our buddy Ty here on our prediction show, him or Brandon, one of the two, thought the idea would be to maybe split up these tag titles again and have tag team championships on Raw and SmackDown individually. So whichever one predicted it got it right. So shout out to those guys here on the channel. But yeah, it was kind of a bit of a shock to see Austin Theory and Grayson Waller win the SmackDown tag titles. That was not be who I would have personally picked. But then again, I mean, they're loved over there on SmackDown as well. And of course, you got the awesome Truth with Miz and R-Truth himself getting the Raw Tag Team Championships here, which makes perfect sense from the storyline they're telling with R-Truth who was in the Judgment Day and things like that. So it kind of made some sense to tell that. I mean, I got no problem with either of these four guys winning these tag titles. My concern is, though, I know a lot of people love to complain that AEW has too many world championships or too many titles in general. I personally think both companies have way too many titles. And if you add Ring of Honor and the AEW championships and you add that, or you compare that to the total titles between NXT and WWE main roster, actually, I think the WWE side of things has more titles in general between the two companies, especially since NXT also announced this weekend that they're adding an NXT Women's North American Championship as well. So we're getting all sorts of new titles from both companies. And at some point, we've got to stop, okay? Because we don't need, 50 different titles on all these shows, because at that point, the championships don't mean nearly as much when there's not as many. So I wasn't the greatest fan when it comes to splitting the titles up again here. I was kind of hoping they would, just consolidate to one set of belts and just keep the tag team championships to kind of go between both shows, much like the women's division does here in WWE. But they must and my only hope here is maybe Hunter has a plan to kind of add some more tag teams to the SmackDown and Raw divisions. Raw has got like 5 tag teams, so it's not terrible. I don't know if it's quite enough to have a full division for. And SmackDown, though, they only have like 3 tag teams, and one of them is the Viking Raiders, and half of that team is hurt right now. So I don't know what they're going to do with these titles split up. I just hope it doesn't get to a point where we don't have enough challengers to warrant tag team title feuds on these shows. So that is my concern. However, we do have a draft coming up that we'll be talking about here in just a little bit too when we get to Monday Night Raw. So that could be how they kind of take care of some of that issue. But we'll have to wait and see what they do. But outside of that, great ladder match, great spots. Yeah, a lot of craziness. JD McDonough, especially flying off the top through the outside through a table. There was a lot of cool stuff. A trust fall from Kofi Kingston at one point, I remember. A lot of cool stuff. An airplane spin with a ladder and a guy on a guy's shoulder. Another great spot was when Grayson Waller took a power bomb on the outside of the ring and threw a ladder. That looked absolutely great. I know a lot of people were talking about how, well, it looked like the ladder was wooden and it was spray painted to look like it was, it was like it was a metal ladder. But here's the thing. All pro wrestling companies have been doing this for a long time. When they throw people through a ladder, it's not a metal ladder. I mean, if you could probably tell they're a little lighter weight, especially. My assumption is it's made of wood and the rungs are like a thick aluminum. So it has a little bit of a metal to it, but it wouldn't make much sense to be swinging around full metal ladders. You could definitely get hurt in pro wrestling. So this is nothing new here. WWE does it. AEW does it. I think AEWs are more black, and I think WWE has black ladders as well. But in this case, when Waller went through it, everybody was like, "Oh, look!" And you could tell it's like it was wooden, but this is not a big deal. This is just one of the tricks of the trade, so to speak. And I thought the power bomb he took through that would still look great when it comes to the presentation. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff. Like I said, definitely great for exciting spots. So if you like that sort of thing, definitely check out the 6-pack ladder match here at WrestleMania. Next up, we had a match that I kind of, this is where the show started to take a little bit of a dip for me. We had a match that I kind of thought should have been on SmackDown, all things considered. That was, of course, Rey Mysterio and Andrade. They kind of, the versus Santos Escobar and Dominic Mysterio. They kind of had been changing the members of this match for the last few weeks. Dominic Mysterio was added later, a couple weeks back. And then, of course, Andrade was, he replaced Dragon Lee for this match on SmackDown this week prior to the show, doing an injury angle for Dragon Lee. I don't think Dragon Lee's injured necessarily per se. I think they just wanted to get Andrade on the show, which, to be fair, is probably the correct choice. Nothing against Dragon Lee, but Andrade is obviously more experienced. But at the same time, I just felt like this was kind of, first of all, it was a little overbooked at the end. I got nothing against overbooking. We'll talk about that, especially once we get to the main event of night two. But in this regard, I thought it was a little overbooked when adding the Jason Kelsey and the Lane Johnson stuff. I understand why they did it. They're in Philadelphia. They're trying to get the pop of the crowd. They're in the Philadelphia Eagles Stadium. Obviously, Jason Kelsey just retired this offseason as well. So I understand they ended up helping the babyfaces win over Santos Escobar and Legado del Fantasma and Dominic Mysterio here, with Rey and Andrade getting the victory. Yeah, definitely a little bit overbooked, but at the same time, it makes total sense in a WrestleMania standpoint. Because they love to get the celebrities and things like that involved. But at the same time, I just felt like this is one of those matches that wasn't WrestleMania worthy. You could have easily done this on SmackDown on Friday night. And I felt like there was quite a few matches on night one, especially, where you could have cut them out of the show completely, put them on SmackDown the night before, and you wouldn't have to have 2 nights of WrestleMania and just do one night, 4 to 5 hours, and be done. There's certain times when they do these 2-night WrestleManias, I just feel like they just put stuff on the show to fill time, kind of like what they do on their Monday Night Raw shows sometimes. And in this case, it just didn't hit that WrestleMania level for me. I mean, it was fun, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, it was just kind of like, we don't necessarily need this here on the biggest show of the year. But this is what WWE does, and they definitely try to get everybody they can possible on these shows. And doing the 2-night thing, I understand why they do it. They get more revenue that way, and they're trying to do the Wrestle Kingdom thing from New Japan Pro Wrestling. They kind of started the whole weekend extravaganza sort of bit, but as far as I can tell. But at the same time, I just don't feel like this was completely necessary for a WrestleMania card. And after this match, for me, the disappointment kind of continued because, look, I love Jimmy and Jay. I think they're great, especially when as a tag team. They're also been pretty fun to watch as individuals. But in my opinion, this match, just considering the build that they gave it, billing it as obviously brother versus brother, comparing it to Owen and Brett in WrestleMania 10 and Jeff and Matt Hardy at WrestleMania 25. This to me the match didn't live up to it much, in my opinion. I just felt like, it just felt like it was, I mean, I have no problem with super kicks. I really don't. Obviously, I'm a Young Bucks fan. I watch AEW. A lot of people thought that this is a tribute to the Young Bucks because WWE fans love to complain about the Young Bucks just using the super kick to death. And the super kick used to be a finisher when it was Shawn Michaels' move. Usos are also known for using the super kick like that. And to me, I just feel like Jimmy and Jay are at a spot where they could definitely take that next step into the singles division. And we'll get into Jey Uso on Monday Night Raw here in a little bit. But I just feel like they're using the Roman Reigns, moveset. They're using spears and, and obviously the super kicks they use as a tag team. The frog splash, I understand they both kind of used as a tag team thing too. So I understand that being Jey Uso's finisher. I just think if Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso want to get further along in the singles competition and the main event level here, they need to kind of start distinguishing themselves apart a little more, kind of maybe breaking themselves away from the bloodline, giving themselves their own unique move sets, especially when it comes to a signature and a finishing maneuver and things like that. I think it would make more sense if you keep on doing the super kicks. I totally get that too, but I just think that they're doing a good job of building the characters part with the yeet and the no yeet, but at the same time, kind of just keep building them and continue to expand their repertoire when it comes to their movesets, in my opinion. I think that would help both guys. But in this case, I thought it didn't quite deliver what I hoped it would deliver as a wrestling match. So all things considered, I thought this was a little bit of a disappointment. But obviously, Jey Uso gets the win here with the splash at the very end. There was a nice spot in here where Jimmy kind of did the "I'm sorry, you were right" segment, and of course, it ended up being a swerve to kind of get under Jay's skin and kind of fake him out here and kind of get the upper hand. But there was a nice little moment there, but at the same time, it felt like the crowd was starting to check out a little bit too, probably due to the cold, things like that as well. But it just didn't quite live up to that billing that I was hoping for. I thought this could be a match that could steal the show. It didn't quite live up to that, in my opinion. And hopefully these guys will get an opportunity again to maybe do it one more time at some point, because I'm sure they even kind of realize, it could have been better. So we'll see what they do with it. But like I said, I'm happy for both guys with their success, and I hope they will continue to do so as singles competitors themselves. All right, after this match, we had a women's trios match with Bianca Belair, Naomi, and Jade Cargill versus Damage Control, Dakota Kai, Kairi Sane, and Asuka. But again, I don't want to harp on this too much because it doesn't really bother me. But it was something that I kept noticing throughout the show too. Not only was the ad placement absolutely nauseating, as you can see here on the screen, it was all over the ring posts, the aprons, the boards, the every, I mean, and of course, like I said, the ads that ran in between matches. But the thing with this that really kind of stuck out to me, and like I said, I wasn't really offended by it per se. But to me, in a world where everybody is 100% offended by everything at all times, when things are done in a way where I don't know if it's completely overt on WWE's part, but it was definitely a choice, because in the Rey Mysterio Andrade versus Santos and Dom match, all Latinos, we had the product placement around the ring was for like a Minute Maid, like aqua or agua. It was like a Spanish like beverage. So to me, I was like, well, that's kind of odd. I was like, why would you put an ad, in regards to Spanish, or a Mexican ad in the match with Latinos? That's a choice. So a lot of people would look at that's kind of racist, maybe. But or they could say it's honoring the culture. I don't know. But in this case too, we got to a point where we had a match where we had 3 black women on one side and Japanese ladies on another, and then with the black women on one side, we had an ad placement for fried chicken wings. So again, like I said, it doesn't make me mad, because I mean, obviously, I don't get offended by a lot of things like a lot of people do. I have my moments where it's like, all right, really, or I get mad when I feel it's warranted. This was just more like, why did you choose to do it like this? You could have put this ad in any other match. Maybe you could have flipped the two, even, or whatever. It just felt, like I said, definitely a choice. I'll just leave it at that. But to me, I was just like, okay, it kind of took me out of the match. Not to mention the ads in general took me out of the match altogether. But anyway, like I said, it didn't really offend me or anything per se. I was just kind of pointing out the fact, especially to the group I was with, that's definitely interesting to me. Like nobody will get mad at this, I'm sure, but they'll get mad at something that's said out of context by politicians or whatever it might be. And this is the thing that's perfectly okay. But if one person who you don't agree with says it, oh, it's the end of the world. So I just feel like it feels like the outrage today is just selective, in my opinion, in a lot of cases, because this is one of those that probably should have caused an uproar, but as far as I can tell, it didn't. But anyway, and there's a couple other instances like, with Gin and Juice and the Snoop Dogg match, which I understand. I think it might be his brand, even kind of like the Prime, the drinks, that's Logan Paul's brand. I get that one a little more, but this one was just kind of like, interesting. It just felt a little interesting. That's all I'll say. But the match in general between the 6 ladies wasn't bad. But at the same time, it just kind of felt like one of those matches that didn't need to happen on WrestleMania. I mean, not only that, this match was clearly designed to kind of get over Jade Cargill, because she's the new face in town, so to speak, especially on SmackDown. But it just feels like, and I'll get into this when we get into Monday Night Raw. I'll talk about it more there. But it feels like after 8 months of being signed by WWE, WWE said that they needed to, work with Jade and kind of get her up to speed and get her and to do things the WWE way. And she needs to be trained more. She's a little green, kind of inadvertently or not, kind of throwing a little shade at AEW, saying, well, she come from the minor leagues. Now we've got to get her ready for the big league, sort of thing. But I know a lot of fans will take it that way. And there were a lot of that stuff going around WrestleMania week here, which I'll get into here in a little bit. But it just felt like, Jade was in this match all but a couple minutes. She did 3 or 4 moves, and then she wins the match, which, good for her. She gets her first win at WrestleMania in a trios match with these lovely young ladies here. But I just felt like it was, again, just another match that probably should have been on SmackDown at some point. Didn't necessarily need to fill all this time at WrestleMania, but good to see the ladies having a good time here. Good to see them getting the win, obviously, and good to see Damage Control too. Take nothing away from them, obviously, but at the same time, I asked our fun facts and trivia guru Mike, because he's always got the records, all these WrestleManias especially, and I asked him, has there ever been a Japanese woman ever got a victory at WrestleMania, and he said not to his knowledge. Which yeah, it's kind of interesting to think about when it comes to all that. It's like, I mean, to be fair though, there's not been a whole lot of Asian ladies throughout the years at WrestleMania. It's kind of a new thing, but I know Asuka, especially, she's 0-6 at WrestleMania at this point. She's never won a match at WrestleMania, especially after all that time in NXT, going completely undefeated for that long time. And now she's not even got a singles match or a single victory at all, let alone in just the singles competition. So yeah, it's just kind of interesting to note here. But of course, Vince McMahon, that era is gone now. So I think that maybe that could possibly change. I was kind of wondering if Io Sky would get the victory on night two. That didn't happen either, which we'll get into. But yeah, I think, like I said, it was an okay match, just not what I was hoping for WrestleMania. Next up on night one, we had the Intercontinental Championship match, Sami Zayn versus Gunther. Obviously, playing on the storyline that Sami Zayn didn't quite know if he was going to be able to beat Gunther, but he pulled off this top rope brain buster, which I thought was outstanding, and he gets the victory over Gunther to end Gunther's 666-day reign as Intercontinental Champion. Take nothing away from Gunther. Absolutely incredible run. He deserves a little time off or whatever. It feels like a lot of wrestlers are going to be getting a little bit of time off here over the next few weeks, leading into Backlash in France. But great for Sami Zayn. And when I first saw this brainbuster, I mean, this is a great shot of it here. I thought it was a botch. I thought maybe he couldn't hold Gunther and he dropped him, and it was not good. But it was brought to my attention that when he was El Generico, he actually used this move a lot. So it actually worked from the fact that it was something that in order to beat Gunther, Sami Zayn had to pull something out of his repertoire that he's not used a lot in WWE, which is why I thought it was a botch, because I hadn't seen him use this move. And to be fair, I've not even seen this move in AEW. And AEW gets a lot of flack for doing some more dangerous type style wrestling. This was something you're dropping a guy on his head upside down, that high up in the air. So I mean, I think Sammy executed it the way it was supposed to go. But at first, I about jumped out of my seat. I was scared to death that Gunther was going to be severely hurt here. But like I said, great win for Sami Zayn. I'm very excited for him. He's absolutely deserving of the Intercontinental Championship. Gunther, like I said, had the great run. He is now the all-time record holder for the longest Intercontinental title reign of all time. But Sami Zayn, like he mentions on Raw, he beat him. So good to see him with the championship finally get a little bit of the flowers he deserves. And I know WWE likes to tout the fact that Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens main evented WrestleMania last year on night one, which to me was only night one main event. It wasn't a main event at WrestleMania. It was the middle of the card, but that's how they're going to add it into the stats now, apparently. But so now that's 2 WrestleManias in a row that Sami Zayn has walked away with championship gold. So good for him. I'm happy to see that. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens especially are much more deserving of some better booking. I think that may be coming down the line here, especially in the Paul Levesque era. And of course, this made it even more emotional with the fact that Sami Zayn had his wife out there. He had his son. We saw him before the match in the backstage area. Obviously, they didn't want his son out there throughout the show because obviously Gunther was going to chop the living hell out of him. And of course, there were times that Sami Zayn was even laying in chops that were even stronger than Gunther's. But yeah, they knew this was going to be a very physical fight. So they kept the son in the backstage area, but it was good to see Sami Zayn celebrating with his wife at ringside. So yeah, it was definitely made emotional. It was a big time emotional win. So gotta love to see that sort of stuff at WrestleMania, no doubt. And of course, after that, we had the main event of night one. Of course, the big tag team match featuring Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins versus the Bloodline with Dwayne The Rock Johnson and Roman Reigns. The main event of night one determined the stipulation for night two. So yeah, obviously it was more than 30 minutes. I think it was about 44 minutes long, all things considered. And it was about 30 minutes after the end of the Sami Zayn match, as I mentioned, because obviously, we had to get the recap video in. We had to get all these promo ads. So yeah, it was insane how long we had to wait for this. But at the same time, all 4 men stood in the ring after the bell for a long time as well. These entrances took forever to get down to the ring, which of course, big stadium. It's going to take a lot longer than normal anyway. But of course, Roman Reigns' entrance is so long as it is. But these 4 men, when they got to the ring, they finally stood there. But they stood there and stared at each other for a long time after the bell rang. It's just like, are we going to do anything here? It really felt very, sluggish at the very beginning of this, no doubt about it. I mean, it felt like it took them about 15 to 20 minutes into this 44-minute long match to finally get going. And I say 44-minute long match. It's more like 44 minutes from the start of the first entrance to the end of this. So it took probably about good 15 minutes just to get him into the ring. And then once they did, they sat there and started staring at each other. So it was just like, wow. I mean, and I know they talked some trash and things like that. They were building off the energy of the crowd, no doubt. They were playing off of it, no doubt about it. You know, just letting the crowd take it in. And I understand what they were doing, but when you're sitting there that long in between matches, it's just like, come on, do something. You know, this is WrestleMania, not, you know, stand and stare at each other mania. But anyway, so yeah, the first several minutes were quick exchanges and posturing. But things did pick up a bit when Cody Rhodes and The Rock were in the ring together. The Great One and Rollins ended up fighting into the crowd, but The Rock told the ref he would fire him if he counted him out in his role as a member of the WWE owners TKO board of directors. So again, already The Rock is throwing his weight around here at ringside, basically telling the referee, "You call this, you're fired, or you don't let me do what I want to do. Basically, you're fired." So from that point forward, The Rock started cheating without worrying about any consequences, and that definitely kind of led into what it could be like in Bloodline rules, no doubt. For a long time, this was all Rock and Reigns decimating Rollins and Rhodes. This was all done in a way to make it seem like the babyfaces were in an impossible position, and it did work. It also made for a match that wasn't as exciting as it should have been, and yeah, absolutely. Nobody expected a 5-star classic. They didn't do enough to make this feel worthy of being a main event. But at the very end, like I said, they got going with the storytelling, I thought, by the end of it. It was enjoyable from a sports entertainment standpoint, absolutely, but it was lacking in the pro wrestling department. And especially this week when WWE is now touting that pro wrestling is back. That's what they said at the end of WrestleMania Night 2. We'll get into a little bit of that more once we get to Monday Night Raw, of course, but it just felt like this was all sports entertainment. It was long, overbooked contest. Not as much overbooked as Night 2 is, but The Rock ended up pinning Cody Rhodes at the end of this here. So yeah, I mean, he hit like Roman Reigns with some, crossroads, but Roman Reigns kind of no sold that, hit a spear after The Rock whacked Cody Rhodes with the weight belt, and of course Rock tagged in, hitting with the rock bottom and hit the people's elbow for the 1-2-3 here. So definitely setting up the future here, in my opinion, with The Rock and Cody Rhodes. As we'll get into it, like I said, again on Monday Night Raw as we're getting into it. But yeah, this was the ending was good. It started very slow and plotting, which a lot of Roman Reigns formulaic matches are in that way in any way, where he has to have all of his family members come out and help and things like that. I love this ending shot here of Cody Rhodes sitting just like he was at the end of WrestleMania 39 last year when Roman Reigns defeated him. It definitely, brought back that memory of, Cody Rhodes couldn't get the job done again. Is he going to be able to overcome the odds at Night 2 now that The Rock and Roman have won the match and it's going to be Bloodline rules, setting the table, stacking the deck against Cody Rhodes against all odds? That right there is good peak storytelling. I love what they did with that, no doubt about it. And I thought The Rock looked pretty good, all things considered. You could definitely tell he's 51 years old now. He's not quite as spry as he once was, but he looked great physically. He looked like he's chiseled out of granite. The dude is absolutely in the greatest shape I've ever seen a 51-year-old probably. But at the same time, you could definitely tell he's not as quick as he once was. There's even one spot he went to, I think, hit Seth Rollins kind of low. He kind of lost his footing. Looked like his knees might have buckled on him. I'm not sure. But I'm sure even on Monday Night Raw, The Rock looked like he was kind of hurt a little bit, kind of taking his time, hitting the ropes a little bit to do the pose when he come out for his entrance. But yeah, I thought all things considered, The Rock looked decent, though. I thought the sharpshooter looked great. The delivery of the moves looked good. All that considered, you could just tell he was just a little bit slower than he used to be. Could just be a little bit out of ring shape. I don't know. But The Rock did a good job, and I thought overall it was good to see him back in the ring, no doubt. But yeah, it just felt like it could have been more. So Night 1 as a whole, if I were to grade it, I probably would give it like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. There were some people saying like 8 or 9 out of 10 on Night 1. I'm like, you guys are crazy. Because there has been much better WrestleManias than Night 1. However, I thought Night 2 did a pretty decent job of saving the show. So let's get into that. Night 2 of WrestleMania started out with a rendition of America the Beautiful, which also brought out Stephanie McMahon, who was a bit of a surprise. Wasn't expected to see her. And that was another little bit of my nitpick of this show. I know it's not been 100% confirmed whether and what, if anything, Stephanie, Triple H, Bruce Pritchard, Nick Khan knew about the Vince McMahon sexual assault allegations against Janelle Grant. But there's also a lot of talk about how they definitely knew about it. They didn't say anything, and they possibly even covered it up. If that's true, these people all need to face some consequences for their actions. But I'm not going to sit here and say that they absolutely need to be off the show or be banned from WWE or whatever. I'm just saying if it does turn out that they're implicated in the Vince McMahon sexual assault allegations and the trial or whatever he's going to be going through, they definitely need to face consequences. So until then, innocent until proven guilty. I've said that many, many times, especially when it comes to certain things in politics and things like that. But it was just interesting to see Stephanie McMahon show up here. Good to see her, no doubt. I mean, I like Stephanie. I got nothing against her or anything. But I just don't know how smart it is for TKO to put these people on screen when there's a possibility that they could be implicated. They've definitely been their names have definitely come up in the investigation. So of course, Brock Lesnar's not on the show now due to that and things like that. So there's a lot of things going around. And if they knew about it, covered it up, definitely needs to be looked into. But until all the facts come out, I'm just going to say it was interesting to see all these people on the show tonight. Hopefully that means they're all in the clear. I hope that's the case. I don't want anybody to have to face, jail time or anything like that. First and foremost, I don't want anybody to be hurt in a sexual assault or anything like that. So I'm hoping that that means all these people are in the clear, because I do think Triple H especially has done a great job during his run here booking the shows, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what he does now in the Paul Levesque era, as they're touting it here, the new era for WWE, because it has been far better than it's been under Vince McMahon in a lot of years. All right, so let's get into night 2 here, the World Heavyweight Championship match with Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre. Seth Rollins, obviously, the first night at WrestleMania, he took a beating in his bad knee during the tag team match, and he was definitely selling out a lot during this match. Drew McIntyre started this match off with a Claymore kick as soon as the bell rang for a very close 2 count. I actually thought they might end it right there, because obviously Seth Rollins had a hard night the night before, and then the story going into this was Seth focusing too much on the tag match with Cody Rhodes that he wasn't paying enough attention to Drew McIntyre, much like Drew McIntyre has been paying a lot of attention to CM Punk, who was on commentary for this match. That does play into the finish a little bit, which we'll get into in just a second. But yeah, the first couple minutes, so you could tell these guys were not planning on holding back with each other. The Scottish Warrior even survived a power bomb, a pedigree, and a stop sequence. At the end of this thing, there was even a spot during the match where Drew McIntyre went to the outside. He was dominating Seth Rollins so handily that he actually grabbed his phone from his wife, I think it was, or his girlfriend at ringside, and he tweeted during the match, which I'll show you in just a second. He said, "I'm bored at work," and he handed the phone back to her. So classic stuff from Drew McIntyre, who's been doing some great stuff on his social media accounts. But yeah, this basically the match come down to, at the very end, Drew McIntyre hit like 4 Claymore kicks altogether. And then he, of course, won the World Heavyweight Championship in front of a crowd that he did not get to win the title in front of when he was at WrestleMania during the pandemic in 2020, where he won the title for the first time. So I was glad to see him get his moment here in front of a crowd. Unfortunately, it was a little bit short-lived, because after he won the title, he took it to the outside of the ring. Well, before he took it to the outside of the ring, Seth Rollins did kind of give him a little bit of props, like, "Yo, you effing deserved it. You take it and go with it." So it was a great moment to see with Seth Rollins giving Drew his flowers there and acknowledging him as the better man here. But like I said, Drew McIntyre couldn't help himself, because he has to, continue to go after CM Punk, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, I kind of understand, especially everything that's come out over the last few weeks with CM Punk, and there's going to be some more stuff, which I'll get into at the very end of the show on Dynamite. But yeah, CM Punk obviously, sat here and took a berating from Drew McIntyre, and Drew McIntyre talking about, like, you'll never get close to this. You ever come back and try to get in my face again, I'm going to end your career. And of course, that kind of set CM Punk off. And when Drew's back was turned, CM Punk swept his leg out from underneath him, dropped him onto the announce table, then took off his brace and attacked him with the brace, which may possibly mean that CM Punk's elbow / tricep or whatever's hurt could be actually a lot better. So I don't know when we're going to maybe get this match necessarily, but definitely, beating down Drew McIntyre after the match, which brought out, of course, CM Punk blowing a kiss to Drew McIntyre's wife or whatnot. And of course, yeah, that brought out Damian Priest, who cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase that he's had all the way since July of last year at Money in the Bank, to win the World Heavyweight Championship here, to take advantage of a defeated Drew McIntyre. So yeah, this is the first time that CM Punk has screwed over Drew McIntyre, and there's going to be a second time coming up here within 24 hours after this. But yeah, it sucks for Drew McIntyre in a way, in my opinion. to only hold the title for 5 minutes here. But good for Damian Priest. I'm glad to see him get the championship. But of course, CM Punk took great pride in this, no doubt, because I mean, Punk and Drew McIntyre are going to have a match at some point. There's no doubt about it here. So I'm assuming WWE has successfully re-signed Drew McIntyre to a contract. I knew his contract was coming up after WrestleMania. I have a hard time believing that they're going to set all this up if they've not worked out that deal. Much like how everybody was expecting maybe MJF to be at WrestleMania or Monday Night Raw this week, which did not happen. But it's hard for me to believe they would set up all that stuff with the Undisputed Kingdom and Adam Cole for them not to pay it off. So I'm pretty sure MJF is re-signed with AEW. Pretty sure that Drew McIntyre is re-signed with WWE. Not to mention this whole World Heavyweight Championship thing with Damian Priest now holding the title. You got to remember, there's a Clash at the Castle coming up in June that is in Glasgow, Scotland, which is the hometown of Drew McIntyre. So it would make 1,000%, sense to actually have Drew McIntyre win the world title there. And as Drew McIntyre mentioned on Raw, he thinks Priest is a transitional champion. I think that would suck for Damian Priest. However, he's still a little young in his career, so to him to have it for maybe like 2 months here and then drop it would actually be a decent first run, maybe for a guy who's still kind of coming up and learning the ropes as a main eventer. So it would be cool, maybe to drop it to Drew there. I'd still kind of hate it for Priest, but either way, Priest or Drew is going to get the shaft here. And in this case, I think Drew McIntyre will probably win it at that show. So it sounds like they're definitely setting up Drew McIntyre to win the title in Glasgow, Scotland at Clash of the Castle. But we'll have to wait and see what they do. We also got a Backlash show in France coming up, so we'll see if how that goes. But it sounds like we're going to have a new #1 contender for the World Heavyweight title, which we'll get into on Raw. And as I mentioned, the social media post that Drew McIntyre posted was bored at work, LOL. And after he got screwed out of the title, Drew McIntyre just typed the F word in response to his own tweet. So I thought that was a good troll job on himself a little bit there. So it was fun to see that. So I thought I got a big laugh out of that. I'm very happy for Damian Priest here. Obviously, he does a great deal of celebrating at the top of the ramp with the Judgment Day. They now rule Monday Night Raw for the most part here. They lost their tag titles, but the reason why they lost their tag titles is because they were going to give the world title to Damian Priest. I like Damian Priest. I got nothing against him, so he's going to be a pretty fun champion to watch. I'm excited to see what they do with it, especially in the new era. Obviously, I know he come from NXT, which was one of Hunter's boys down there in the black and gold stuff. So, yeah, I can't wait to see what they do. Looking forward to seeing Damian Priest and see who he ends up getting a match with next. The next match on the card for night 2 was, again, a SmackDown match or a Raw match that should have happened on the weekly show that should not have been on the main WrestleMania card here. That was, of course, the Philadelphia Street Fight. We had Bully Ray of Busted Open Radio fame coming out here to referee this special Philly Street Fight. This made some sense in regards to the fact that he is, of course, was in ECW, and that has, of course, got its roots right here in Philadelphia. However, there's a lot of pro wrestling media out there. Now, don't be wrong. Bully Ray also, praises AEW when he feels like it deserves it. And a lot of these wrestling people do as well. But there are times where some of these wrestling commentators and YouTubers and podcasters will sometimes bash on AEW. Sometimes I feel unnecessarily. And then sometimes we'll praise WWE when I feel like, well, you would criticize it if it was done in another company. So a lot of people were kind of bashing Bully Ray online, like, well, we now know why you bash AEW because you had a gig here in WWE at WrestleMania. A lot of people say he's on the WWE payroll, like Ariel Helwani and some of these other, podcasters and interviewers and stuff like that, all the media. But at the same time, all I ask in podcasting and YouTube and all these guys who talk about pro wrestling that are mainstream, I'm a low level YouTuber, so it doesn't really matter what I say for the most part. But at the same time, when these people have influence, I just want them to be fair with all companies. I feel like now, don't be wrong, AEW is not perfect. No company is, including WWE. But I just feel like if you're going to, praise something in one company and then the other company does it, and you bash on them for doing it, I just feel like it's unfair to me. So all I ask is that you be fair, be courteous, be respectful. And to be fair, a lot of people like Bully Ray is very respectful with his opinions. I just don't want people just to go out there unnecessarily bash one company and just praise one because they either have worked with them before or, like Booker T, they're guys like that. I just don't like some of their commentary when it comes to other companies they've never been a part of, or maybe a lot of people feel like they bash them because they feel like, they've not been offered a job with them. Eric Bischoff was one who actually worked with AEW a little bit early on, and now it feels like he just bashes AEW lately because it does drive clicks and it does drive subscriptions. to his podcast and things like that. So there are people who do it just to get the clout, and I think that's just ridiculous. If we're going to talk and review pro wrestling, we need to be fair on both sides. So that's what I try to do here on my channel because, like I said, I'm a low level YouTuber. I've got no stake in either one. I just want to see good pro wrestling from all companies. So that's just my opinion on it. But like I said here, this was a match which also had Snoop Dogg at ringside, a match where they were, promoting gin and juice, which it looks like he's wearing a hoodie of or whatnot here as well. So this product placement, I actually understand a bit more. This was just a match that was hopefully ending the feud between the Final Testament and the Pride. I don't know. Like I said, it was just kind of boring for me. But Montez Ford had a big frog splash to put Karrion Kross through a table to get the win. That part was kind of fun when Bully Ray or Bubba Ray, whatever you want to go with. I guess it was more the Bubba character here. Kind of tapped him on, was like, "Yo, get the table!" And the crowd shouted, chanted, "Get the table!" So it was fun to see that moment, no doubt. But overall, and there were some funny bits there that Bully was kind of doing in the ring. He was kind of walking around the ring doing some funny stuff. But at the same time, again, it just felt like it definitely was like night one when you have Andrade and Ray with the Philadelphia Eagles players. It just felt like it was the second match on the card just to have a little fun. So in that regard, I guess they did their job well. But to me, it was just like we didn't necessarily need this on the main card. Again, this is one of those things you cut out 4 or 5 matches, you could shorten this to one night and not have the overproduction of it here for sure. It's also very crazy to think that this is actually Paul Ellering's first WrestleMania match he's been involved in as a manager. He was at WrestleMania 8 in 1992 in Indianapolis that I went to. He was in an interview segment with the Road Warriors, Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal, but again, not a part of an actual match as a manager. This is the first time to think that that's actually happened. That's crazy to really realize, especially as long as Paul Ellering has been around in the wrestling business. So kudos to him on that one. There's also a great spot here where B-Fab and Scarlett Bordeaux dropped off the apron through a table, which I didn't realize when they dropped off from the camera angle that there was actually a table there that was going to catch them and catch them, I guess, break their fall or break the table. So I thought they were doing a flat back bump onto the actual the ringside area, which would have sucked. So I'm glad there was at least something there to kind of break their fall. But yeah, it was a cool spot, especially because the camera angle they had scared the living bejesus out of me. The ending was almost ruined a little bit because the table they put Karrion Kross on to take the frog splash kind of broke before they were able to do the frog splash. So luckily there was more, tables from the Home Depot up underneath the ring, because if they would not have brought out an actual table and gave them the crowd that spot, they probably would have rioted, because they were definitely booing that they didn't get the table to break like they wanted it to. So glad they were able to recover from that. Next up on the show, we had what I thought was an underrated match for the weekend, which had a pretty decent build with LA Knight and AJ Styles. LA Knight gets the win here with the BFT, but I thought, of course, he counted a phenomenal forearm to set this up, but I thought it was actually a underrated match for AJ Styles and LA Knight. Yeah, they delivered far better than I thought they were going to. This was the match that I was kind of hoping like with Jimmy and Jay, but this was definitely entertaining. AJ Styles made LA Knight look like a superstar here. He did some great selling for him. So yeah, this did exactly what I hoped it would do, to continue to build LA Knight as a great big star. And I think they're probably going to lead into him facing Logan Paul for the United States Championship. The match I thought we were going to get at WrestleMania, we might be getting that at Backlash or a few pay-per-views going forward. But continuing to build LA Knight here, I think it's great to see him getting the run he's getting here. So yeah, I was absolutely happy with this. Of course, LA Knight showed up to the show in a Slim Jim card, which again, more product placement for Slim Jim, all over the ring apron, all over the arena. So knowing that he was part of the actual Slim Jim commercial as well, should have kind of gave away the ending here that he was going to get the win in the Slim Jim sponsored match. So again, just dial it down. I mean, holy cow. I mean, I don't mind if you do it like one match on a pay-per-view for the whole show, but every single match almost, it's a little overkill in my opinion. Just knock it off, please. But yeah, like I said, overall, good match between these two guys. Good to see LA Knight get the victory. And I definitely can't wait to see what they do with the megastar moving forward. LA Knight. Yeah. After LA Knight and AJ Styles, we had the triple threat match for the United States Championship. Very fun, in my opinion. I really enjoyed this match, although I do felt it was a little bit overbooked, again, with the product placement. However, with Logan Paul, I understand the Prime stuff because it is his energy drink that he's got here. So I understand that, no doubt. But I thought these guys had a lot of fun in this match. There was a spot in the match, especially, obviously they were teasing this, with Randy Orton and Kevin Owens, being really kind of buddy here, teaming up on Logan Paul throughout this whole feud. Then at one point in the match, they kind of looked at each other going, well, only one of us can win. So what are we going to do here? We're going to do this now. We're going to do it now. So they started fighting each other. I thought that was fun. But yeah, there was a spot here where Kevin Owens went for a pop up power bomb that Randy Orton turned into an RKO, which I thought was absolutely incredible. So yeah, a lot of funny moments. Well choreographed. Spots, as well as great storytelling that was going on between the three guys, no doubt about it. And then you got I Show Speed, which is a YouTuber on the outside wearing the Prime logo, which Randy Orton then kicked the snot out of. Looked like he legitimately pissed off Randy Orton on the outside. And of course, Randy Orton put him through an RKO on the announce table, which did not budge, by the way. So kudos to I Show Speed for taking this like a champ. But that, of course, led to Kevin Owens ended up taking a frog splash from Logan Paul to end the match, which gave Logan Paul the victory here at WrestleMania to retain his United States Championship here. Like I said, a lot of fun, no doubt about it. But it was probably one of the better matches on the show over the weekend in general, in my opinion. But I understand why they kept the title on Logan Paul, because obviously the notoriety he gets from his, YouTube or whatever he's on, the podcast and stuff. So WWE likes to have that, mainstream attention. So I see why you're keeping the belt on him for the time being. But I'm thinking at some point, sooner rather than later, it's probably about time for Logan Paul to drop this title. I was hoping he would drop the title to Kevin Owens, but because it would have made perfect sense for me for Kevin Owens to win the United States Championship the same weekend that Sami Zayn won the Intercontinental Championship. They even kind of teased that a little bit when they were doing their entrances for their matches. When Kevin Owens hyped up Sami Zayn on night one, and Sami Zayn hyped up Kevin Owens on night two. But Kevin Owens was unable to get the job done here. Yeah, so good. I mean, like I said, great match, a lot of fun to watch. So definitely one of the highlights of the show, no doubt about it. Next up, we had the WWE Women's Championship match, Io Sky versus Bayley. It's been the best women's storyline that they've done in WWE's recent history here. Like I said, with the Damage Control storyline with Bayley being betrayed by the group, as well as Io Sky taking the leadership role over there. I thought these two women had a pretty good match. Oh, at the very end, though, it turned out that Bayley ended up winning the championship here after a lot of multiple counters to finishers and stuff like that. Yeah, I thought it was a great thing to put the title on Bayley here. Bayley has, kind of been a heel for so long. It's good to see her finally getting back to her babyface roots a bit here. Not like, using the hugger gimmick as she once did when she was younger. I don't know if you necessarily need to go back to that. I mean, I wouldn't be against it. I liked Bayley when she was the hugger, but I feel like now she's more an older, more mature Bayley. She's learned some ins and outs of the business and things like that. So I'm looking forward to see what they do with Bayley. They've got a lot of women on SmackDown who could definitely challenge for the title. So I don't know exactly who's going to be the next one to potentially step up. We definitely know now who's probably going to be stepping up for Rhea Ripley's title on Raw, which we'll get into in just a second. And overall, I thought this match was a lot of fun. These women did a great job, had a lot of great chemistry between the two of them. And at the end of the day, like I said, Bayley is now your WWE Women's Champion on SmackDown. With the draft coming up, we don't know exactly where a lot of this is going to go. That's going to be the one thing that's going to kind of give WWE a little bit of a way to kind of maneuver and set the pieces going forward. So we'll have to wait and see where that goes here in a few weeks. But as women's matches go, I think Bayley and Io Sky probably had the best women's match of the weekend, and it's well deserved because I think like I said, the storyline's been the best one out of all of them, and I think that these women just had great chemistry and did some good things together in the ring. It was entertaining all top to bottom on this one, so I was very happy to see these women absolutely kill it here on the main show at the biggest show of the year. The main event of WrestleMania 40 saw Cody Rhodes challenging Roman Reigns for the second year in a row. Both men had epic entrances fit for an event of this magnitude, and Brandy Rhodes made an appearance with her husband here for the first time in WWE. Reigns had an orchestra playing him to the ring as well. Once they finally got going, they circled each other until Rhodes pushed Reigns to the corner. Despite this match being under Bloodline rules, they worked a standard match at first with holds, counters, and takedowns like we would see in any other wrestling bout. Once the Tribal Chief was sent into the ring post, Rhodes decided it was time to pull out a table. Reigns hit a drive-by dropkick and put the table back under the ring just to make the crowd angry, which I thought was a funny spot. They battled in the ring, at ringside, and in the crowd. They used weapons, parts of the set, and anything else they could find that would inflict damage. There was also a spot in here where I know Roman Reigns hit the crossroads, and then, of course, Cody Rhodes kicked out of the crossroads, and Roman Reigns just looked around and laughed and just said, "That move sucked." Like, of course, of course that move didn't work. It's a sucky move. I love that line from Roman Reigns. It was absolutely great. Roman Reigns is great with his ad libs when it comes to his matches. So I thought it was a lot of fun to see that in this for sure. This was much better than their tag match on Saturday and illustrated why these two men deserve to be in this spot. They'd combine good wrestling with storytelling to make a compelling main event here. this ended up breaking down into bloodline rules as expected. After a little while here, Jimmy Uso come out and he broke up a pinfall attempt from Cody Rhodes, which then brought out Jey Uso. So they met in the ramp way area and they started fighting amongst each other, Jimmy and Jay, and they both flew off the ramp through a table, which took them both out of commission for a while. Then we had Solo Sikoa come out and do the same exact spot that he did from WrestleMania 39 last year, where he Samoan spiked Cody Rhodes after Cody Rhodes looked to have it won. And of course, that looked like Cody Rhodes is going to lose the exact same way 2 years in a row. So I love the storytelling there. But then, of course, this year, though, Cody Rhodes kicked out because he would not be denied because he's gone from undesirable to undeniable here. So Cody Rhodes would not say die. And of course, with Solo Sikoa out there, then now Roman Reigns hit Cody Rhodes with a spear, and at the same time Roman Reigns hit Cody with a spear. Solo also did the Samoan spike at the same time. So that should have, at any other night, that would easily lay out anybody on the main roster in the main event spot, but not at WrestleMania. WrestleMania is, of course, known for all the kickouts, for all the big moves. So Cody Rhodes once again kicks out of that, which kind of feels unbelievable, but it's WrestleMania. This is what we do. Kickouts and finishers. So I don't want to hear anybody talk about AEW. Everybody, they're just kicking out of finishers all the time. I understand WrestleMania is the biggest spot of the year, so maybe AEW needs to only reserve it for big time events like All In every year. So I get that, but at the same time, we had a kick out here of the big finisher, and then of course that brought out John Cena, who obviously did feud with Solo Sikoa, a little bit while ago here, and I believe Solo Sikoa even beat John Cena, so that made sense to have John Cena come out for that. But then as soon as John Cena took care of Solo Sikoa, that brought out the final boss, The Rock. And of course, him and John Cena have history from WrestleMania 28, 29, where they went back-to-back years in the main event together. So Rock was absolutely appalled that Cena would stick his nose into this. So Rock come down here and took out John Cena. And then, of course, The Rock looked like he was about to smack it down on Cody Rhodes with the Mama Rose weight belt. And that was when the gong hit and The Undertaker showed up. And then went, when the lights come back on, Undertaker was behind The Rock. And, of course, The Rock was looking around, where was Undertaker? And he turned around, and he saw Undertaker. And that is when, of course, Undertaker hit the big choke slam on The Rock, and the lights went back out. And when the lights came back on, The Rock and Undertaker were both gone. So I guess the Undertaker drug The Rock away to the depths of hell, probably underneath the ring in this case. But yeah, definitely fun to see the Undertaker show up here. I think this spot was possibly meant for Stone Cold Steve Austin, but for whatever reason, either they couldn't get Stone Cold or whatever it might be. But the Undertaker shows up here and drills him as well. And before this happened, we also got Seth Rollins complete in full Shield gear with Shield entrance music as well showing up, and that was, of course, Roman Reigns then took him out with a spear before he was able to get to The Rock. But yeah, like I said in our prediction show, this was the WWE Avengers Endgame moment. It was overbooked to hell, but in this particular case, it made sense to overbook this, to have all these big baby faces, all these bloodline members, because that's the story they've been telling over the last 3 years or so, that every time Roman Reigns wrestled a match, he needed to win with the help of the bloodline and his family members. So it was slowly breaking it down. You had Jay taking out Jimmy, so Jimmy was out of commission. John Cena took out Solo Sikoa, so Solo Sikoa is now out of commission. Then when The Rock was the one guy there left to help Roman Reigns, The Undertaker come down and took out The Rock. So now it was left to be Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes one-on-one here. And that is, of course, when Cody Rhodes took advantage of the one-on-one opportunity that he had with Roman Reigns all by himself. He set him up. He hit some crossroads. And like we said on the prediction show, this had to end with Cody Rhodes dealing the final blow to Roman Reigns. So there is no excuses from Roman Reigns or anybody else, and from the fans especially, that Cody Rhodes got lucky. Cody Rhodes went in there, was the one to finish the job and slay the beast that is Roman Reigns after 2 long years of Cody Rhodes and the booking to set him up as the next big top babyface here at WWE. WWE does the right thing. They pay off the long-term story here, and they finish the story for Cody Rhodes, and Cody Rhodes is your new WWE undisputed WWE champion. If you notice, outside of Cody Rhodes on Monday Night Raw, they've not really been saying undisputed Universal Championship. They've been dropping the Universal name from the belt. So it sounds like we're probably going to be getting this called the undisputed WWE title. Just call it the WWE Championship at this point. It's so much easier. And that's what it should be at this point. There's no point in having the Universal title be a part of this anymore. Obviously, it made sense for Roman Reigns to call it that because he that he was one with Brock Lesnar to merge the belts together. So I think it's just best to call it the WWE title moving forward. And I'd love to see a new title design like the old winged eagle, which was I thought was kind of interesting that Cody Rhodes was wearing like a winged eagle on his shoulder pads when he come out to the ring in his entrance on WrestleMania on night 2. So yeah, big time celebration here. Hopefully, we'll get to see that going forward. Of course, after the match, Seth Rollins did get a handshake from Cody Rhodes, thanking him for his help, even though Seth Rollins, like I said, lost his title and helping Cody Rhodes. Maybe they play on that later on. If Seth takes some time off, maybe they'll come back and be like, yo, I helped you win your belt. You weren't there for me to win my title, but I lost my belt. I don't know. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But Seth Rollins looks to be one of those guys who possibly be taking time off. Roman Reigns is probably going to be one of those wrestlers taking time off as well. So yeah, I mean, like I said, this is WWE storytelling at its best, where WrestleMania is supposed to be all the fans go home happy with the baby faces coming out on top. It's the feel good story of the year. And if the heels don't always get they normally don't get the big win at WrestleMania. And it does happen occasionally, like Stone Cold defeating The Rock at WrestleMania 17. The heel actually went over on that one. But at the same time, I thought this was absolutely outstanding. Cody Rhodes is absolutely deserving. And of course, he got the obligatory Triple H pointing photo in the back, celebrating the win here. Cody Rhodes is absolutely deserving of this belt. There's no one better to carry the company into the new era. It's a shame that this could not have been done in AEW. Like I said, Cody Rhodes over there, I think, booked himself into a corner a little bit, saying he would never compete for the title. But this is what we could have had in AEW, and whatever. If you want to say AEW dropped the ball, I guess you could say that. But it was just one of those deals where it wasn't working out in AEW for whatever reason. You can believe what anybody says about it. Cody has enough class and respect for that company that he's not going to badmouth them or anything. But it was, like I said, this was great. I'm happy for Cody. Happy that it all worked out for him. Hopefully, it will be a great run for him as champion into this new era. And I can't wait to see where they go with this and who's going to be his first challenger. While we don't quite know exactly who is going to be challenging Cody Rhodes for his first title defense, we do kind of have a bit of an idea where possibly Cody Rhodes could be going at SummerSlam this year. So let's get into the Raw after WrestleMania review right now. This show opened up with the Triple H era and Hunter himself coming down to the ring. Appropriately enough, the COO making his way to the ring to bring in the new Paul Levesque era. He called, like I said, WrestleMania 40 the greatest ever. Like I said, I wouldn't go that far. Overall, I'd probably give the show, since night 1 I'd say was a 5 or 6 out of 10, and night 2 I'd probably put it at an 8. I would probably kind of meet in the middle. Overall, I'd give it about a 6.5 to a 7 as a WrestleMania. Like I said, top 20, not best of all time, but definitely on the upper end of those for sure. So good WrestleMania, no doubt about it. And of course, Triple H is coming out here touting and all weekend long they touted the attendance records and things like that. To me, the attendance records I really don't care about, and that goes for AEW too at this point, because it's come out. Obviously AEW from the sounds of things fudged their numbers for All In. WWE for many years, including this year, has inflated their numbers as well. So the numbers to me don't really matter. Not only that, same with the ratings. The ratings don't matter for these shows anymore. So all you guys online arguing about the ratings and the numbers, who cares? All that matters is if the people who are paying the bills are happy, like TKO or USA and Fox and Netflix and all this stuff. And if Warner Brothers Discovery are happy with AEW, why do you care what the numbers are? If you enjoy the show, enjoy the show. There's no need to argue about it online because a lot of these numbers are all fake and made up anyway. So who cares at this point? It's just like, when you're going over the job markets and politics, they're always going to skew the numbers somehow to match their narrative. Okay, that's what WWE has done, especially when it comes to their attendance at WrestleMania. They want to say, oh, we had 145,000 people over 2 nights, but they don't tell you that over 2 nights, most likely of those 145,000 people, it's probably the same person both nights. So it's probably around 70-ish, but even so, that the building only holds like 68,000. So again, they kind of fudge it just a little bit there. But again, it doesn't matter. The place has been packed. WWE's been selling out, or at least if they aren't completely sold out, they certainly look like it. Monday Night Raw, they claimed was 20,000 when I believe the ticket sales were around 18. So they could have fudged it by a couple thousand. You never know. But it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we should just enjoy the show. Who cares? As long as they've got fans in the building at all. I know AEW struggled with some fan attendance as well, but it's a different company. You can't compare the two. It's like apples and oranges, in my opinion. One company's been around for 40 plus years. They've got the mainstream notoriety from, and AEW is just getting started. So this whole, like I said in some other videos, the tribalism and the negativity between fans and, oh, well, my company's better, your company sucks. It's just stupid. Anyway, I'll stop ranting. But yeah, it's just dumb. So who cares? But anyway, not the greatest ever as he's touting, and but they're going to tout their stuff. This is what WWE does. Like I said, it makes business sense. But anyway, he called out Cody Rhodes basically, and out came Cody Rhodes. They celebrated his championship victory. He gave him a handshake, gave him a big old hug. They even had a video package highlighting Cody Rhodes' career, especially in the WWE, and they showed a little bit of TNA stuff. Like, didn't really show any AEW footage. I know there was a shot of the Young Bucks in the package last night at WrestleMania, but it was not any AEW footage per se. It was just like a picture of Cody Rhodes. I'm sure Cody had. So it was nice to see him throw it in there, but it's not like AEW is giving him footage because like WWE and AEW ain't getting along right now, which we will talk about here in a little bit toward the end of the show. But it's just it was good to see. It was a feel good moment here. Cody Rhodes, it was in tears. It was definitely fun to see Cody Rhodes getting his flowers and the accolades he deserves after a long career of struggling. And it was good to see just because, like I said, this whole storyline with him finishing the story, holding the belt that his dad, Dusty, never got to hold in WWE is a great thing to see. And he's the first Rhodes to win a world championship, even though I know Dustin Rhodes is getting a world title match against Samoa Joe on Dynamite this week. That's probably not going to go Dustin Rhodes' way, but they're still kind of playing off the fact that Cody finished his story and maybe Dustin's going to get an opportunity here. So I understand why AEW is doing it, but in this case, it was just nice to see Cody Rhodes smiling from ear to ear, all of his hard work paying off. The don't quit attitude that Cody Rhodes has. So yeah, they're probably going to push him as the next John Cena, the next Hulk Hogan. They're going to do their best to get him over as a babyface, which he is over. We'll see. Hopefully, the fans won't turn on him. I know they kind of turned on him in AEW. That is always the fear with the babyface champion, because the storytelling is much more intriguing when the babyface is always chasing the heel for the championship. So eventually, fans do get tired of the babyface being the champion. That's why you usually take the belt off and you see the babyface do the chase. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully, it'll last a long time for Cody. Like I said, he deserves it. He probably ought to hold it. I would like to see him hold it at least till next year's Mania. We'll see what they do with it. But yeah, I can't wait to see where they go. But we got a little bit of an inkling about where that could possibly go, because after the whole thing here, Triple H left, and out come The Rock. And of course, he brings his People's Championship down to the ring. The crowd just absolutely would not let Rock talk. Every time he held up the mic to his face, they chanted "Rocky sucks" and they booed him. That was, of course, led to The Rock, kind of belittling Philadelphia, talking about they were the largest gathering of trailer park trash he's ever seen. So great stuff from The Rock here. But eventually the crowd calmed down, and The Rock talked about how he loved the way the title looked on Cody Rhodes, and he wanted to hold the WWE Championship here because The Rock said he never held this particular WWE Championship, the design, that is. He's obviously held the WWE title before. So The Rock wanted to hold it, which kind of was an awkward moment where they switched titles and Rock put it on, which what we're getting here is The Rock basically insinuating he wants Cody Rhodes' WWE title if when The Rock comes back that Cody Rhodes still has the title, as he mentioned. But whether or not Cody Rhodes still has the belt or not when The Rock comes back, he wants Cody Rhodes when he returns. So The Rock basically told you here, even though he said he's going to be taking some time off, he's going to ride off into that sunset for now. But he basically told you that he will be back for Cody Rhodes, which to me means he will be at SummerSlam this August and challenging Cody Rhodes at this event, potentially then setting up further down the line The Rock versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 41, which is the match we did not get this year. But again, me, Brandon, and Ty on our prediction show, along with Miranda as well, we all kind of predicted that it could possibly lead to The Rock kind of taking the head of the table spot while Roman Reigns is taking some time off. And when he goes after Cody Rhodes, we'll see how that goes at SummerSlam, but then it could potentially set up a feud between Roman and Rock going into 41. That way, you can have like who's going to be the head of the table. The Rock's going to kind of assume that position in Roman's absence, which could lead to that at WrestleMania 41. So I think that could be a very good storyline wrinkle when it comes to the bloodline. Not to mention WWE signed Tama Tonga, who has some, I think Samoan heritage of some sort. I don't know if he's quite in the bloodline, but they did sign Jacob Fatu, who is a member of the bloodline. So you could definitely do some new things with the bloodline storyline if you wanted to continue to go about it. So we'll see where they go with it. I'm not totally sure exactly if they're going to do that or not, but either way, it sounds like we're going to get Rock Roman at WrestleMania 41. But before we do that, we're going to get Cody versus The Rock probably at SummerSlam this year, which makes a total amount of sense. I can't wait to see that. But yeah, I mean, but this promo eventually broke down. It was a long promo. It was 45 minutes, which was Absolutely insane. A 3-hour show. The first hour, which was all commercial free, basically only had like about 5 minutes of wrestling for the show that claimed to be all about pro wrestling. Now after WrestleMania, the very next night, the first hour is basically promo. So it's all sports entertainment to start the show. So far, nothing has really changed a whole lot. We did get into some wrestling after this promo, but this went way too long. A lot of that was the WrestleMania crowd kind of, chanting the whole time and trying to not let The Rock speak and things like that. So it just felt like it dragged. But at the same time, this did a good job of setting up the new stuff. Obviously, this he said he's coming back after an upcoming hiatus, and he will be targeting Cody, as I said. And Rock placed. He then went into his pocket. He grabbed something out of his pocket. He said, "I want you to have this." He said, "And just remember." He said, "Don't break my heart again." And we didn't see what he handed Cody Rhodes when he shook his hand, but he handed something to Cody Rhodes, and he said, "You know what this is," without even looking at it. And I'm telling you right now, do not break my heart again. So he left Cody Rhodes seething without any explanation as what was given to him. So the question moving forward is, what did Rock hand Cody Rhodes in this promo? Something obviously, a lot of people were speculating, well, maybe it's a watch that like Dusty Rhodes had or something like that. But I don't think that's it. I mean, Cody was touting a watch, I guess, at the post game press conference last night, or I'm sorry, 2 nights ago when you see this. But apparently it was a watch that Dusty Rhodes had pawned off so Cody Rhodes could go to school. I think, and I believe Triple H and maybe Nick Khan or somebody had got it for Cody, got it back for him. So it's one of Dusty Rhodes' watch. So I thought that was a really cool gesture from the owners here and the creative officer. But I don't think it's that. I'm not sure exactly what it was he handed Cody here. That's going to be the speculation for the next few months until Rock does come back. But they definitely laid that seed, which I do enjoy. They laid the storyline seed for when Rock comes back. That's going to be a big factor playing into this feud between these two guys. That, like Rock said, the feud with Roman Reigns is now over, but the feud between me and you is just beginning, which is what I wanted to see, because this stuff has been going on between Cody and Rock. It feels more like they were setting up a one-on-one match between these two, and not so much the Roman Reigns match at Mania. Well, all that turned out to be great. I want to see this one-on-one match between Cody and Rock, and I hope Rock can handle a one-on-one match on his own, especially at his age. But he's got a few months to train, get more in ring shape than he was previously, so hopefully he'll take this time. If he's doing other things in Hollywood or whatever he might be doing with the UFL, all that sort of good stuff, hopefully he will be able to take this time between now and August to get even better shape, and hopefully he'll look even better than he did at WrestleMania Night 1. So I can't wait to see what they do with this main event match coming up at SummerSlam in Cleveland, Ohio this August, they announced. After this, we finally got into some pro wrestling on the show. We had a surprise NXT appearance from the NXT champion, Ilya Dragunov. He faced Shinsuke Nakamura here. Good match between the two guys. Not going to lie to you. I thought it was pretty solid. Great to see. Again, they're kind of teasing the fact that we've got a WWE draft coming up in 3 weeks' time, which ironically is the same week as the NFL draft over there in the National Football League. So I think what WWE is trying to, and I think they did this one other year, not sure if they did it last year, but they've been kind of doing this thing where the draft kind of coincides with the NFL draft to kind of play off the whole draft vibe that's going on here. So we're going to be getting some NXT stars called up to the main roster, no doubt about it. And they definitely highlighted a few of them here on this show. But obviously, Ilya Dragunov is uber talented, no doubt about it. And him and Shinsuke Nakamura had a pretty good match, all things considered. Wasn't a great match. It was a solid B match, I thought, in my opinion. Give it a B grade. But yeah, it was good to see Ilya Dragunov get the win over the main roster talent. But again, Nakamura's at this point in his career where he's going to be putting over some young guys and things like that, as he's been doing a lot lately. But yeah, good to see Dragunov. And if you didn't check out Dragunov's championship match at Stand and Deliver, I definitely recommend you go watch that as well as the main event match with Carmelo Hayes versus Trick Williams. Let me know what you guys thought about that in the comments down below as well. NXT did some good things over the weekend. So yeah, as I mentioned, they announced that the WWE draft will be taking place on April 26th and April 29th. SmackDown first, and then the following Monday night on Raw, the same weekend as the NFL draft. As I mentioned, this falls roughly 2 weeks before Backlash in France. So I'm sure what will happen here is we'll probably get a draft that weekend, and then the draft will probably take place after Backlash that following Monday. So that way you can build feuds over the next month to go into that pay-per-view or PLE. So yeah, I mean, this is where WWE is going to be able to shake things up again, as Vince McMahon once said. But I'm curious to see how Triple H handles this. Because I mean, it's always been one of those things. Well, we got a draft, and things under the Vince McMahon era, we'd have people jumping from both shows often. That's not been happening nearly as much lately. So it'll be interesting to see how they shake things up. Obviously, I think with Cody Rhodes having the WWE title and Damian Priest having the World Heavyweight title. They're both Monday Night Raw wrestlers. I'm sure one of them is going over to SmackDown. I'm guessing it'll probably be Cody Rhodes. Not 100% sure on that, but we're going to have some shaking and bacon moving around here a little bit. So we're going to be getting people jumping ship here and jumping different shows. We're probably going to have titles switch places. We're going to have all the maybe tag teams broken up. We'll have to wait and see. That's always the fun of the draft. So we'll see how they do it this year with Hunter booking it 100%. I have more faith in it with him than I do under the Vince McMahon era for sure. So like they said, they're touting this as a new era outside of the fact that we've not gotten the pro wrestling side of it that they're touting quite yet. There's quite a bit of sports entertainment on this show still, but it's a slow process. Maybe we'll eventually get more of a sport or of a pro wrestling presentation here. But part of me wonders though if we're still going to get sports entertainment and they're just trying to say pro wrestling's back to kind of take attention off of AEW because AEW's been touting that they were the best wrestle. So I don't know if they're just trying to say, hey, yeah, they're pro wrestling over here, but now we're pro wrestling too. I don't know if they're doing that or if they legit have plans to actually further this to become more of a pro wrestling centric WWE now, or if we're still going to stick with the with the sports entertainment. Like I said, a lot of this, especially the beginning of the show, was very sports entertaining me, and as well as WrestleMania was definitely more sports entertainment driven than it was pro wrestling. Obviously, it had some good matches, but I believe overall, the first night of WrestleMania was some 4 hours. I think it was only like an hour and a half of wrestling. So again, when your ratio of wrestling to ads and promos and recaps and all this stuff is much lower than all that stuff, you gotta start stepping it up when it comes to the amount of pro wrestling you have. You can tell storylines and things like that in matches. You don't have to necessarily do them all in backstage segments or promos. You can actually get in the ring and tell the stories while you're doing the matches, which they do some. But AEW seems to have that part down far better than WWE does at this point. AEW could definitely improve their storytelling outside of it, and I have noticed that AEW has been adding more video packages to kind of let you know who certain wrestlers are if you don't know who they are from like New Japan or other wrestling organizations. So they're doing a good job of that that WWE does in spades. They do it great, and sometimes ad nauseum. But I just feel like both companies have places they can improve, and WWE's I think right now is, if you're going to say you're going to be pro wrestling again, step up the amount of matches and the quality of matches instead of just saying, all right, we're going to do it. And then so far tonight, we've had a 45-minute long promo to start the show. But it was The Rock and Cody. You're setting up something big going forward. So in that regard, I understand why you did it. After that, we had Judgment Day come down to the ring to, celebrate their victories at WrestleMania. Obviously, they lost the tag titles, but Damian Priest won the world title. And of course, that led to, R-Truth, who still thinks he's a part of the Judgment Day, come down and held up his Raw Tag Team title that he won with The Miz. And he took from the Judgment Day, actually. Of course, that kind of set off Damian Priest and Finn Balor, especially since they lost the belts in that ladder match. But this was a fun segment here, no doubt about it. The Miz interrupted, and a six-man tag team match was made, pitting the champions and a partner that R-Truth said, the man no one can see, which, a lot of people thought might have been Little Jimmy. Dominic Mysterio, JD McDonough, and Finn Balor were on the other side. The heels dominated through 2 commercial breaks before John Cena's music finally played, and the GOAT, as they call him, which it's just marketing on WWE's part. I'm sorry, he's not the greatest wrestler of all time. He does hold a lot of championships for sure. 16-time world champion, but greatest wrestler, no. He was definitely booked as one of the best of all time. But I can name Bret Hart, Ric Flair off the top of my head, who were better than John Cena in the ring. Anyway, he come down to the ring. He exploded into the match off a tag and laid waste to the opposition before the Awesome Truth hit a 15-knuckle shuffle where all 3 guys, Cena, Truth, and Miz all hit the 5-knuckle shuffle at the same time, and they all hit an attitude adjustment, a triple double A, as it were, to then pin the Judgment Day here to get the 6-man victory here. A lot of fun between these guys. It was a fun match to watch, especially with Cena's appearance. Cena definitely had a lot of fun doing this. You can clearly tell, and R-Truth is absolutely a blast to watch. So if you got a chance to watch any match on the show on Raw tonight, this and the main event is probably the 2 best ones on the show. After that, it was a little bit of a filler, in my opinion. So we'll get into that here. So backstage, we had a Bronson Reed segment where he was cutting a promo on his victory on SmackDown, winning the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. But during this promo, there was a bit of glitching that was happening on screen. And this was definitely harkening back to the days of when Bray Wyatt used to herald his return with the glitching television screens and glitching production and things like that. And we even had a video from a fan that surfaced in the arena. Apparently, they were playing a glitch on the big boards that they had. So yeah, so here's that. I mean, it definitely yeah, I mean, they're definitely doing something here. I don't know exactly what, but yeah, this is definitely interesting to me because I mean, I know WWE would not intentionally disrespect Bray Wyatt and everything he's done for the company. So yeah, this is just interesting to me. I mean, like I said, Bray Wyatt was known for all this stuff, and WWE just released a documentary that was, I believe, narrated, or at least it involved Bo Dallas. I've not watched it yet, and I heard it was absolutely great. And of course, if you remember, Bo Dallas, from all reports are that Bo Dallas was the one behind the Uncle Howdy mask. So could we possibly be getting a Uncle Howdy return here to continue the legacy of Bray Wyatt here in WWE? And Bo Dallas could continue to keep working here and, like I said, pay honor to his brother here. That could very well be happening. And of course, like I said, the glitch that happened in front of Bronson Reed, even if you look at the very bottom right hand of the screen, it says the word hello. So again, this is not a production faux pas. This is something that's done intentionally. Uh, but most likely it's Bo Dallas. I don't think WWE would do it if it was anybody but Bo Dallas in this spot. So because this makes the most sense. Now, this could obviously also be heralding the return of Alexa Bliss if you're going to go that route. But I would think you would probably bring Alexa Bliss back and a different character because I don't know if we want to have her doing the old Bray Wyatt gimmick now or not. To me, it just feels like it would be disrespectful if it's anybody but somebody in the Wyndham family. So Bo Dallas being the one to carry it on, if that is indeed the plan, they could very well do that. So definitely something to keep your eye on here going forward. I like the little subtleties that Hunter likes to throw into some of these things. If you watch closely, you may start seeing flickering televisions and things like that, just like it was with Bray Wyatt was here. So obviously they paid homage to him this weekend at WrestleMania with the Fireflies and things like that. So definitely something that I'm looking forward to see where they go with it, because if we could continue something like that with Bo Dallas or somebody in the family, I think that would be very appropriate. But I just thought it was something worth mentioning here because it's probably something that a lot of fans, especially if you weren't live in the crowd where the video was recorded, you probably didn't even catch it on the WWE Raw here because it was so quick. So it's definitely something worth keeping an eye on. It's probably something that's going to progressively get more and more intense as the week rolls on here. And we could possibly see more and more of this teasing the return of whoever this individual may be. But yeah, definitely probably going to be Bo Dallas, in my opinion. In the back, we had a segment where Rhea Ripley was walking with Dominic Mysterio after their match earlier on, and she said that Dominic needs to go fix the issue with Andrade. That was where all this stuff has been stemming from. And when Dominic left, that's when Rhea Ripley got jumped by Liv Morgan, who appears to be the next contender for Rhea Ripley's championship, which is probably the contender that makes the most sense at this point. A lot of people are like, well, where's Rhea Ripley going to go next with this title to defend it against who? Because she's pretty well ran over everybody. But it looks like they're getting her back to her crazy ways after some time off here. And yeah, Liv Morgan looks to be the next one to contend for Rhea Ripley's World Women's Championship. But yeah, I mean, this could be okay. I still think I don't know exactly who's going to take the title off Rhea Ripley at this point. Because if Becky Lynch can't do it, I mean, I don't think Liv Morgan's going to either. It's probably going to be a match again that's set up at Backlash coming up here in a few weeks. But yeah, at the end of the day, this could be something that Rhea Ripley could definitely benefit from, maybe switching over to the SmackDown brand of the draft. We'll have to see where they go with it. But yeah, I just feel like she's ran through the Raw women's roster pretty thoroughly. And this may be the last contender left on that roster to do so. But yeah, I mean, and she's ran through some of the contenders over on SmackDown as well. So I don't know exactly where they go with it. It's kind of like the Gunther problem. He ran through so many people, and Roman Reigns too ran through so many people. You got to find somebody who will eventually be worthy of beating the champion. But in some cases, it's hard to do. Sami Zayn was a pretty good choice, and Cody Rhodes was too. But in the women, it's going to be a little harder to find someone who's worthy of the belt after all this time. So we'll have to see what they do. But yeah, I'm looking forward to see where they go with it. But looks like as of right now, Liv Morgan is the next challenger. So yeah, we'll find out. We got Roxanne Perez, the NXT Women's Champion. Again, another NXT title holder showing up here on Monday Night Raw. She faced Indy Hartwell, another NXT alum, kind of furthering this feud with Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell, where Candice LeRae is trying to help out Indy Hartwell to learn the ways of cheating a little bit. Indy Hartwell didn't want to win that way. She tried to help Indy Hartwell, which distracted her actually, and then Roxanne Perez hit the pop rocks for the win. So yeah, again, just kind of highlighting the NXT champions here. Again, kind of setting up the fact for the draft coming up. Also, just kind of giving NXT a little bit of their flowers as well, because they're probably trying to sell the fact that, hey, we want people to watch NXT on Tuesday nights as well. From what I understand, like I said, I don't watch it a whole lot here on the channel, but Shawn Michaels has been doing a pretty good job down there. Kind of unnecessary, all things considered. For the Raw after Mania, you kind of hoping for a lot more surprises than just this. But all things considered, I thought it was serviceable, no doubt. After this, we had Sami Zayn come down to the ring to celebrate his Intercontinental Championship belt, his victory over Gunther. Obviously, he was pretty emotional as well, and that brought out Imperium, who was basically talking about how after this historic run for Gunther, we got some bum out here, holding the belt. Now it's a disgrace, and that of course brought out Chad Gable to make the save. And Chad Gable and Sami Zayn had a tag match against Imperium, which of course they won to again kind of further the storyline where Chad Gable has been Sami Zayn's mentor. And of course, this led to a segment later on where Sami Zayn and Chad Gable were talking in the back. And of course, Chad Gable told Sami Zayn at WrestleMania, you do this, you owe me one. And now that Sami has the title, Sami's like, well, I let you win the match tonight. You think that's good enough? And of course, Chad Gable's like, of course not. So, and Sami's like, I know it's not. He's like, you deserve a shot at this just as much as anybody. So next week in Sami Zayn's hometown of Montreal on Raw, we're going to be getting Sami Zayn versus Chad Gable for the Intercontinental Championship here. I kind of expect a heel turn from Chad Gable. Maybe he wins the belt from Sami Zayn. I don't know. It'd be kind of a shame for Sami Zayn to drop the belt that fast. I always hate when WWE, like I know they did this to Zack Ryder a few years ago, won the Intercontinental Championship in a ladder match, then immediately dropped it the following night. I hope that a lot of these title holders, they get to hold the belts for a while. I kind of wonder if R-Truth and Miz are not going to hold the belts for very long. Maybe they lose them at Backlash. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm hoping that these title winners from WrestleMania this year get to hold them a little bit longer. So I don't know exactly where they're going to go with this feud between Gable and Sami Zayn. It's built out of respect for sure. But yeah, we could definitely be getting a bit of a heel turn from Gable. We'll just have to see where it goes. I expect a great match no matter what between these two guys next week. So it could be definitely a banger, as it were. So definitely check it out next week on Raw. I think it could be very well done. After this, we had Nick Aldis, Anna, the general manager of NXT. I think that's how you pronounce her name. I believe it's the Rock's daughter, if I'm not mistaken. And then we had Adam Pearce in the back talking about the upcoming draft and things like that and how they thought, WrestleMania was a good show and all this sort of stuff. And then, of course, Chelsea Green walked in. And as soon as Chelsea Green's voice hit, Adam Pearce looked at, said out loud to both of them, either one of you want to make a trade? Because he can't stand Chelsea Green. So I thought this was absolutely outstanding from Adam Pearce. I literally laughed out loud at that. Great delivery by him. But they Chelsea Green come in there kind of being the Karen character that she is, said she wanted competition since she wasn't on WrestleMania. So Nick Aldis is like, oh yeah, we got something for you. Of course, Chelsea Green couldn't quite understand what they meant by that. But of course, she walked out to the ring, and that is when, of course, she got the appearance of one Jade Cargill coming to Raw this week after WrestleMania to highlight her talents, which, again, I didn't get into it much earlier on, but I'll get into it now. After 8 months of being in WWE, Jade Cargill is finally starting to show up on the main roster. WWE was talking about how, she needs to improve. She's green. AEW, she needs to be shown the ropes here. Maybe didn't do the greatest job of getting her ready for the big time, as it were. But here's the thing. So far, all we've seen out of Jade Cargill, who I thought looked the best at the Royal Rumble, she's done a few spots at the WrestleMania match, and tonight she hit two moves, a pump kick and her finisher to pin Chelsea Green, which I understand is supposed to be a squash match because Chelsea Green's not going to be competition for the aura that is Jade Cargill. And the presentation for Jade Cargill has been great. It's pretty much the same presentation they had at AEW, so give AEW their credit there. It's the exact same thing. The Storm is coming. They changed the music a little bit but it's still the same type of music, same kind of presentation. She comes in, squashes somebody, leaves. That's exactly what they did with her in AEW. So if WWE wants to tout this fact that they're going to change her and get her, ready for the big time, so far, I've not seen it. And especially after 8 long months of her being under contract and WWE just now finally bringing her to the roster, I kind of expected more. And I understand it's a slow build, and hopefully we'll get to that point. But so far, I have no problem with the way AEW booked her. I thought they booked her the best way they could have done. And she had some okay matches. I mean, it was nothing stellar. Absolutely. And she does, she is a bit green. Absolutely. But the way AEW did it, I thought was just fine. I just want everybody to understand that, the way WWE is doing it so far is not much different than over there. So if you're going to praise it here, you got to give AEW their credit because they definitely set the table for her to go here and do what she's doing now. So I just feel like, again, it's just one of those things we need to be fair to both companies. And I think Jade Cargill will get better and she'll have longer matches. And but as of right now, it's just, after all this time, I kind of expect a little more at this point. So we'll see where she goes. I'm looking forward to seeing where they take her. And I'm sure they're going to give her the big presentation, no doubt about it. Like I said, she just loves, I mean, like they mentioned on commentary, she's absolutely made for professional wrestling. If anybody was, Jade Cargill is made for pro wrestling. So yeah, it was good to see her get the victory here. So we'll follow her career closely, as Emperor Palpatine once said to young Anakin Skywalker. We'll follow your career with great interest. So yes, we'll see where she goes. Following the Jade Squash match, we had the main event for Monday Night Raw this week, a fatal four-way match to determine who will face Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight Championship, most likely at Backlash in France. It was Drew McIntyre versus Jey Uso versus Ricochet versus Bronson Reed. So yeah, this started out with Drew McIntyre coming off down to the ring. And of course, he's, livid after losing his World Heavyweight Championship because of CM Punk. In his eyes, I mean, there were to be fair, Drew McIntyre didn't have to focus his attention on CM Punk, so that's kind of the storyline they're telling. But Drew McIntyre's been doing this thing where he blames everybody but himself, so it was kind of cool to see this continue here because Drew McIntyre's been doing outstanding work. So yeah, he was complaining about how he only held it for 5 minutes. Of course, the crowd was booing. Then he said, "Well, 5 minutes is longer than half of you guys last in the sack." So great line by Drew McIntyre to kind of throw that at the crowd, no doubt about it. But yeah, during his whole rant here about how angry he was, Jey Uso's music hit to come down to the ring, and Drew McIntyre looked like he was going to go out and destroy Pat McAfee for trying to get up and do the Jey Uso thing. Cole said he didn't want to die, so he told Pat McAfee to sit down. This is another great bit here. Another great bit that Pat McAfee had on the show earlier on was when The Rock told the crowd that largest group of trailer park trash ever. Pat McAfee goes, "Congratulations, you guys did it." And of course Cole's just sitting over like, "Oh my God, you did not just." Michael Cole is having the time of his life. You can clearly tell. Obviously, I know Pat McAfee is having the time of his life too, but I'm seeing a side of Michael Cole that you've not seen in a long time, if ever, because Michael Cole now doesn't have like Vince McMahon screaming at him in his headset all the time about what spots to call, what to promote, what to repeat over and over and over again, or yelling at him for getting something wrong. They're being allowed on commentary now to kind of say things that just kind of come to them. Obviously, they got to follow a script and some bullet points of what happens on the show, but at the same time, you can just tell they're more laid back, they're more fun. They don't have to worry about saying the wrong things or the wrong terminology. The medical facilities when they want to say hospital, or the fans when we're talking about the WWE universe. So it's just nice to see these guys having a blast out there, and Michael Cole especially. Pat McAfee was a godsend to Michael Cole because you could just tell he makes it that much more fun for Cole, no doubt about it. But yeah, this match was an action-packed main event that saw Ricochet throw caution to the wind with a jaw-dropping springboard 450 splash from the top rope onto Bronson Reed through the announce table. That was outstanding. It looked like it sucked for Ricochet, no doubt. He kind of even looked like he looked over at Samantha Irvin, who was his girl, and he just kind of like, "I'm sorry, I'm about to do this." So she, I'm sure it kind of tore her up on the inside, in fear. But yeah, this then set up McIntyre, who set up for a Claymore, only for CM Punk to come from underneath the ring and grab his leg. So yeah, this is definitely, again, CM Punk costing Drew McIntyre yet another match for the World Heavyweight title. And Punk is just laughing as he's doing it too. So I'm not gonna lie, I found that entertaining as much as I'm having some issues with CM Punk right now. But it's just this was just, again, just kind of tying into this, and of course that led to, with Drew McIntyre being distracted, it led to him getting a shot here from Jey Uso, who hits the frog splash for the win here. So yeah, I'm glad to see Jey Uso. He's now going to be getting the World Heavyweight Championship match against Damian Priest, probably at Backlash. So Jey Uso getting pushed to that main event. The main event, Jey Uso is getting into the main event, as it were. So yeah, it's actually kind of cool to see Uso getting. Obviously, he come off the big victory against Jimmy Uso, despite that match being a little underwhelming, as I said. Jey Uso is going to be getting a World Heavyweight Championship match. So yeah, furthering the feud between Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, with CM Punk laughing on the commentary table as the show went off the air, obviously. But again, it sounds like we're going to get Jey and Damian Priest at the pay-per-view, and Drew McIntyre and CM Punk are going to continue their feud. And I don't know when or if CM Punk's going to be ready to wrestle. From what I understand, it was more of a long-term injury, which could keep him out a lot of the year. So they'd have to drag this on for a while. Maybe Drew tries to get into this main event match at Backlash. Maybe becomes a triple threat. I don't know. Yeah, so I like what they're doing with Jay. Like I said early on, maybe get some like at least a finisher to kind of separate yourself from everybody else on the roster. But I like the fact that Jay's getting a world title match. I don't think Jay's going to win the world title. I think it's a little too soon for that, especially since you just crowned Damian Priest. But it should be a good match to build for Backlash, and it should be a fun match to watch. So I'm looking forward to see what they do with that. And like I said, of course, Punk and Drew McIntyre, they're going to collide at some point, and it's going to be bitter. I hope CM Punk body holds up for sure when it comes to the match in general. I've had my issues with CM Punk as of late, especially, and I know this has been a big hot topic here, and I may piss off some people saying this, but WWE this week, as much as I respect everything they've been doing as of late, it was WrestleMania week, and all it seemed like WWE could talk about this week was AEW. And a lot of times it was very subtle. Triple H, was talking about free agents and stuff. If they don't come here, we don't want you anyway because you're not down for the grind, as it were. But going to a place like AEW, which is just better for your family and things like that, and being with them, it makes sense to go to a place like AEW because it just means that you're going to be able to spend more time with your family. That doesn't mean you're not down for the grind, as it were, or don't want to be there on the road, for 3/4 of the year. So it doesn't mean that, and we had other comments like from Jade Cargill talking about how she needed to come over here to be in the big time. Of course, CM Punk was the worst offender this week, talking on the Ariel Helwani podcast, basically calling Tony Khan not a boss and things like that, which is kind of ridiculous. I mean, I understand CM Punk probably has some sour grapes about his time in AEW, but it sounds like that feeling's mutual. But you got, and I understand. Look, I know both companies has thrown shots at one another, and personally, I don't care personally if shots are thrown from company to company. A lot of you people who are 100% like just upset and offended that AEW keeps mentioning WWE, they need to keep WWE out of their mouths, or WWE needs to stop throwing shots too. A lot of you people would not have made it through the Attitude Era, because the Attitude Era, there were shots being thrown all the time, especially by Eric Bischoff, and Vince McMahon was. A lot of you people wouldn't have survived during that time, because I know today's a lot different in our culture, and everybody's uber offended and upset about everything. But this is what pro wrestling competition is, really. There's going to be shots taken by both companies. And to be fair, you got to remember, I looked it up even. This all started when Hunter himself, at the 2019 Hall of Fame induction ceremony, when him and DX were going in the Hall of Fame, Billy Gunn was there, and he's talking about how he's messing with this pissant t-shirt company over there in AEW. That was the first shot. So if anybody started this, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Triple H himself, Paul Levesque started this. So, and then about 6 weeks later at AEW's first pay-per-view outside of the All In show was Double or Nothing. That is when Cody Rhodes took the sledgehammer to Triple H's throne, or a throne that looked like Triple H's, to, again, in response to that. So when all this was going on this week, when CM Punk was, talking about the All In brawl that happened and things like that, Tony Khan has been relatively silent about this and has been pretty professional about it. So you can hate me for saying that all you want, but it's the truth. And I know Adam Copeland went out there and gave this speech about we're going to focus on positives. We're moving forward. We're not worried about all this stuff, and we're just going to do our thing. And we're building a dynasty over here. So again, I had no problem with Adam Copeland saying that, because I thought that that was actually the right thing to say. Adam Copeland spoke 100% truth on that, because, I mean, at the end of the day, we shouldn't be bickering over this. Pro wrestling's in a great spot. Both companies' wrestlers are doing very well. And in this case, CM Punk decided to run his mouth. Again, a lot of people are on CM Punk's side. I'm under the impression CM Punk's probably more guilty than he's letting on. We'll wait and see what happens, because apparently, because Punk decided to bring all this up again, which again, it was WrestleMania week. There was no sense in it from either party. Pat McAfee's talking about how AEW, if Dominic Mysterio left the company, he'd go wrestle in front of 600 people at that other company, which was a direct shot at AEW, which I was a little disappointed in Pat McAfee for that, because I like Pat. But at the same time, it's just like, we don't need to be doing this. And that's both companies. I don't care if they do it, like I said, but there's no sense in it. It really doesn't help either company out in the long run. It just causes more division among the tribalistic fan base who are already negative against one company or the other. So it drives me crazy. So I thought I'd end the show and discuss this preview for Dynamite this week. Because of all this that went down, apparently Tony Khan and AEW has announced that following all this stuff that happened at WrestleMania week and all these shots being made, which CM Punk made another one about Will Ospreay, which poor Will Ospreay wasn't doing anything. I guess Will Ospreay got a tattoo of the attendance number for All In last year, and Punk kind of, razzed. Again, it was a subtle shot. He asked Miz if he was going to get a tattoo of the attendance, which he knows Will Ospreay has it, so that's why he said it. So again, it was a subtle shot. Again, just taking these digs. But it's kind of funny because CM Punk also has a wife. AJ Lee has a tattoo on the back of her neck, and with scratches indicating the date that she won the WWE Women's Championship on, or the Divas title, or whatever it was. So it's kind of a bit hypocritical there, but at the same time, it's like it just feels like Punk wants the attention, and Punk has got this history of, in some people's opinion, being a punk, and going to companies, and when he doesn't get his way, he becomes toxic. And that was the way he was in WWE before. That was the way he was in AEW. And a lot of people were worried that he may do the same thing in WWE. Time will tell on that. But at the same time, it doesn't need to be brought up, especially during WrestleMania week. I know he was kind of asked that by Ariel Helwani, and Ariel Helwani was kind of trying to, fan that flame a bit. He even asked Cody Rhodes the same sort of situation, trying to get Cody Rhodes to badmouth AEW, which Cody wasn't going to do. He's very classy. He was very respectful of the Young Bucks and Kenny and Tony Khan and everybody over there. He said that it couldn't have happened without the right amount of people and everybody in that room. So he was very proud of it. So Cody was doing the right thing here, but Punk kind of took that low road. So now AEW has responded by saying they're going to release the footage from the All-In brawl that took place at London between him and Jack Perry, who was talking about he wanted to use real glass, and CM Punk said we don't do that carny shit and things like that, and basically told Jack Perry to knock it off, which led to a big fight. But then Punk also got involved with the Young Bucks, and Kenny had that big fight as well in the press conference where he was eating muffins. So I mean, it just feels a bit hypocritical of CM Punk to go out there and badmouth this company. And I'm not saying AEW is 100% right in the matter either. I'm absolutely not. I'm sure there are things that Jack Perry probably did that was wrong, or the Young Bucks made that was wrong too. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people criticizing AEW right now, talking about how this footage is not going to accomplish anything. They just need to move on and be themselves. But here's the thing, and keep WWE out of their mouth. But here's the thing, when WWE says something about AEW, Tony Khan once said, to be AEW is to be under constant attack, because they have been since their inception. Everybody just attacks AEW. They don't give them their credit, which is a shame, because, just because you don't do something like WWE doesn't mean it's the wrong way to do things. A lot of pro wrestling does things like AEW does. It's just that WWE fans don't know that, because all they watch is WWE and their product. So the criticisms come out already about how this isn't going to do anything, and AEW just needs to stop doing this. But if WWE and CM Punk are going to throw out the first shot here in this particular situation, you can't expect AEW not to respond. So this is going to be their response this coming week on Wednesday. Whether you feel it's a ratings ploy or whatever you feel it is, at the end of the day, they're telling their side of the story. As I said when I talked about this in my previous videos, we got CM Punk's side of the story. But as always, there's two sides to the story, and it's sometimes three sides of the story. It's both sides, and then the truth is somewhere in the middle. So in this case, we're going to be getting the footage. Apparently, this is legit. We're going to be getting the footage of what happened between CM Punk and Jack Perry at All In, where Samoa Joe supposedly broke them up. So we're going to find out if everything that CM Punk said has been absolutely true, or if he's been fibbing and embellishing or flat out lying about it too. So we'll see how that goes on Dynamite this week. But I just thought it'd be something worth mentioning here. Like I said, I don't like the childish behavior between both companies either. But I don't necessarily care if they do it. Like I said, it's just something that happens in pro wrestling. It's same as if guys jump at different shows. It's what happens. People get different opportunities and different contracts. We're going to see people jump from WWE to AEW and AEW to WWE. It's just the way it's going to be now. This is not going to kill AEW, by the way. I've heard podcasters say, "Oh, this is going to kill AEW. This is something WCW would have done back in the day." This different. AEW is not going to lose money like WCW did. That's the whole reason WCW went out of business, basically, because they basically went bankrupt. So this is a different situation. But this is everything that's going on with Hangman, Colt Cabana, the Elite, CM Punk, all this stuff. We're going to get a little clarity about it this week. I'm sure, again, AEW could potentially edit it to kind of suit their narrative as well here. So you got to remember that when you're watching it. But at the same time, you got to expect a response. You can't just come out and attack one side and just expect the other side to shut up. So when everybody's saying AEW needs to stop, No, they have the right to respond as well. It is their right to do that, especially if they're being accused of something. If they have footage that shows it's a complete lie, I got a feeling AEW would not release this footage if the footage actually, uh, showed everything that CM Punk said to be true, because it would help them at all. So in this case, there's got to be something here that CM Punk's not telling the truth on. Otherwise, AEW wouldn't release it to begin with. So wait and see. It's something to look forward to this Wednesday. It's definitely going to be something to discuss on social media, no doubt about it. It's going to set the Twitterverse, the Xverse on fire, no doubt about it, I think. At the same time, I just wish all the drama would stop, and we all just enjoy pro wrestling because it is in a good spot right now. It is the best place it's ever been, and that's what I care about. I want both companies to succeed. I want Ring of Honor to succeed. I want New Japan to succeed. TNA, NXT, all these companies to succeed. I want everybody to have a good business because I love pro wrestling. That's just the way it is. And if you do a good show, I'll talk about it here on the show. Otherwise, I may not discuss it. But anyway, those are my thoughts for WrestleMania 40 and the Raw after WrestleMania and a few extra things as well. What do you guys think about all this stuff that happened in pro wrestling this week? I didn't get into SmackDown, Collision, or Rampage this week, or the Hall of Fame. All good stuff. Like I said, go check out those shows. A lot of good things that happen on over there. I'll probably try to get back to a normal schedule where we get the Dynamite review, SmackDown and Collision probably next Monday morning, and get back into a normal flow of things as well. But this is a big weekend, a lot to cover. I'm tired. I'm sure a lot of you are too. We also had the solar eclipse here in town in Indiana. So there's been a busy few days, so I'm tired. I'm ready to go to bed. But comment below. Let me know what you guys think about pro wrestling in general right now. What did you think of WrestleMania 40? What did you think about the Raw after Mania? To me, not the greatest Raw after WrestleMania of all time. Good start to it. A little bit needs a little more wrestling, but definitely better than last year's for sure. Vince ruined that show, in my opinion. Comment below. Let me know what you guys think, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And until my next video, guys, take care and God bless.